Good day and welcome America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports and The Briefing. You know, what comes to mind for me is confirmation hearings, Trump's picks, and it's not just Trump, it's not just Trump's administration, but, we're in 2025. He's the president again, and we're going through this process, and it's become very clear to me that morality no longer matters. Qualifications no longer matter. Senate hearings are just, show trials. And partisan politics reigns supreme. If Pete Hegseth, beyond just getting a Fox News part-time weekend hosting job, applied for a position, veterans group, or in the private sector, beyond his looks, beyond the tattoos, I think that he would struggle in getting hired. And of course, Matt Gaetz was one of the worst picks ever, and just someone that creates chaos and has no solutions, and is a deplorable and despicable human being. Newsmax hires him. I mean, we're living in an insane asylum, and we're in Trump's world. And anything goes. So whether it's the Capitol rioters that get blanket pardons and just a dozen or so get commutations, you can inflict violence on Capitol police officers. Now, again, I would have no problem with the majority that were completely nonviolent and just mere trespassers getting a blanket pardon. But those that committed acts of violence, and you can say, well, what about Portland and Seattle and New York and Chicago and the protesters and the violence? And, well, a certain wrong doesn't make a certain right. And yes, anyone that creates criminal violence, and it's provable, there should be some penalty and punishment. If, let's say, some of those that served 1 or 2 or 3 years had served 10 years, then we're talking about a different thing. And if you were planning and plotting the overthrow of the United States, sedition, it should come with some serious consequences, if provable. But I'm just looking at the cabinet picks. I'm looking at, the Capitol rioters. And it just seems like there's just no justice. And Trump's gotten away with everything. And again, I am complimenting some of the decisive, bold initiatives in the second term. And we're dealing with pedal to the metal and complete and total action. Now, there are some misses, but there's some hits, some great hits. And we're going to get into a lot of those things. But the point of the matter today that I wanted to address in this briefing is that morality is arbitrary, and it's whatever you want it to be, and people are just excused, whether it's being an alcoholic and whether it be drinking, drugs, womanizing, infidelity, unwanted sexual advances, among other things that are now just like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the job qualifications. Well, I asked John Tower about that, and how his drunkenness and womanizing cost him a Secretary of Defense job. So we're living in different times. One of the things that I noticed that the Republicans, as well as Democrats, are pushing for the Epstein files being released, even if they said it names Trump. Well, it's going to name Trump because Trump visited that mansion that Epstein had in Manhattan and New York City. Now, he didn't take the trips like Clinton did, as far as we know, to the island for those sexual escapades and debauchery. To what extent, Epstein said Trump was his very best friend for 10 years. So, I don't know. But I want to see transparency. I want to see full disclosure. Thankfully, he signed the executive order to release all files, not conditionally, not... I guess maybe there could be some redactions, but as far as I know, the push is for, total release of the classified documents on MLK, on JFK, of RFK. And speaking of RFK, some of the scrutiny that he's experiencing in his confirmation hearing is warranted. I mean, he was a former heroin addict. He's done some very strange and bizarre and odd things. He has contradicted himself with some of his statements relating to vaccines. And again, I am an anti-vaxxer to at least some degree, and that all medicines and all vaccines should be questioned and should be screened for scientific efficacy and safety, and rather than just the focus on an herbal supplement that could cause a tummy ache and then it gets banned, where any medicine can have hundreds of side effects, and some of them life-threatening, and these medicines get approved. And Trump has to take some responsibility for the fact that his warp speed brought these vaccines into effect. But Trump he likes to play both sides of the fence, and some of these candidates and nominees are dubious at best. Some of them are absolutely fantastic. Pam Bondi, absolutely qualified, a perfect choice for the Justice Department. I mean, she should have been picked first and not Matt Gaetz, okay? And then you have, I don't know everything about Kash Patel, and we can get into that too, and you know there are some controversies, but let me just address one person that has been not only nominated, but she skated through with the help of J.D. Vance to break the tiebreaker, and that's Kristi Noem. Now, I used to like and respect Kristi Noem, and it went beyond her charm and beauty, and certainly her grace and intelligence, but she was an effective governor for the most part. But then she was vying for the VP spot, and she thought she had to show that she was tough and that she, could impress Trump, and talked about in her book, and the publishers told her, please don't talk about that, of her killing her innocent puppy, this beloved creature. She said, worthless. Okay, so we're talking about South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. And in her book, she defends killing her less than worthless puppy. And she put the quote in there, I hated that dog. So less than worthless puppy, I hated that dog. So she's now not only nominated, but confirmed to be Secretary of Homeland Security. But the book that she wrote, and the publishers warned her, don't put that in there. It's called No Going Back. And she boasts about killing and hating her puppy. So my question is, why is this puppy killer, an animal cruelty abuser, nominated and actually confirmed for such a high government post at DHS? Why hasn't she been criminally charged? At least admit the wrongdoing, accept punishment for these heinous acts, and serve time aiding at an animal rescue shelter. We should never forget this admitted vile act of animal abuse and needless slaughter of her innocent puppy. I believe there was a goat also. There were other farm animals. If you have a problematic animal, you can always find someone that maybe is more adept, more skilled, and do a private adoption. You can ask for intervention at one of the rescue shelters, and they'll come to your aid. But to boast about this, and Trump not taking into account this heinous, vile act, and she did this to be tough enough to be considered to be VP. Now, you can also look up Corey Lewandowski and her very close alleged relationship as a married woman. But that's, people say, well, that, morality and infidelity and those kind of accusations and allegations don't matter. Well, maybe not, because look at the commander-in-chief. Look at Bill Clinton. But nevertheless, when it comes to animal abuse and animal cruelty, elder abuse, and child abuse, and sexual predatory acts against children and teenagers underage, that to me is the unpardonable sins that a human being can inflict and can do to others. So I needed to get that off my chest, but I wanted to let you know. The good news is that with me reactivating my X account and posting these kinds of things, and then creating, which I mentioned in the previous podcast, that I actually have a Substack page category called The Love of Animals. So you could just go to loveofanimals.substack.com and you can see articles that I've posted. It's not just about exposés. It's about animal rescue stories. It's about good news and successes, and I try to focus on that. But I was able to utilize this as a means to vent, to oppose, to expose South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem in the worthless puppy killer. There's no puppy that's worthless, and you shouldn't hate any pet. You can hate the behavior, but this animal, based on what she described, it was nonsensical. It was unjustified in what she did. So I really needed to get that off my chest. So you've got sexual predators, you've got animal cruelty and abusers and killers that are part of the nominating and confirming process. And these are the best people in terms of character, morality, and just good people, good-natured people that you can find. Mr. Trump, Mr. President, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now, yes, I did mention Pam Bondi. Very good pick. There are some others that have already been confirmed. There are people working within the White House that are pretty good. I believe, regardless of circumstances, regardless of the reality of politics, that morality still matters. So I guess I'm in the minority that, hey, if you like somebody, someone compliments you, if you think this person is cool, past sins and immorality and infidelity and just being a good person all the way around, good-natured, doesn't matter. Well, it matters to me. So I will still speak up, speak out, and oppose and expose where needs to be. That's me. That's Tom Donahue. That's this program. That's this podcast. And I hope that you are my ally in arms as it relates to these issues. I'm not talking about piety. I'm not talking about holier than thou. People make mistakes. But there are just certain bridges that we cannot cross, certain bridges that you cannot return from those acts. That's just the way I see it. Till we meet again, Tom Donahue Reports, The Briefing. Have a great day.